Centaur. The centaur comes from ancient Greek mythology and is known for having the body of a horse and the upper body of a human. Centaurs were often described as wild creatures, connected to forests, mountains, and untamed nature. Most stories portray them as aggressive and difficult to control, though a few were wise and peaceful. The most famous among them was Chiron, a teacher who guided heroes like Achilles and Hercules. Centaurs became symbols of the struggle between human intelligence and animal instinct, which is why they appear so often in ancient myths and artwork. Harpy. Harpies were strange creatures with the body of a bird and the face of a woman. They were connected to storms, wind, and punishment. In Greek myths, harpies often carried people away or tormented those who angered the gods. Their appearance changed across history. Early stories described them as beautiful wind spirits, but later myths turned them into frightening monsters with sharp claws and cruel personalities. Harpies reflected the unpredictable force of nature and were often used in stories to show divine punishment. Cerberus. Cerberus was the terrifying three-headed dog that guarded the entrance to the underworld. In Greek mythology, his job was simple but important. He prevented the dead from escaping and stopped the living from entering without permission. Ancient writers sometimes described him with snake tails, glowing eyes, or even dozens of heads instead of 3. Cerberus is most remembered from the story of Hercules, who captured the beast as part of his final labor. Over time, Cerberus became one of the most recognizable guardians in mythology, representing fear, death, and the boundary between worlds. Griffin. The griffin combined 2 powerful animals into one creature. It had the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle. Because lions ruled the land and eagles ruled the sky, the griffin was seen as a symbol of strength, protection, and royal power. Unlike many Greek monsters, griffins were not always evil. Ancient cultures believed they guarded treasure and sacred places. Stories about them appeared not only in Greece, but also in Persia, Egypt, and medieval Europe. Their image survived for centuries and later became common in flags, castles, and royal emblems. Hydra. The Hydra was a giant serpent-like monster that lived in the swamps of Lerna. What made it truly terrifying was its ability to regrow heads. Every time one head was cut off, 2 more would grow back in its place. Some stories even say one of its heads could never die. The Hydra became famous through the legend of Hercules, who defeated it by burning the necks after cutting the heads away. The creature represented problems that grow worse when handled carelessly, which is why the phrase, "cut off one head and 2 more appear," is still used today. Minotaur. The Minotaur was a creature with the head of a bull and the body of a man. According to Greek mythology, it lived deep inside a giant maze called the Labyrinth on the island of Crete. The monster was born from a curse connected to the gods and was hidden away because of its violent hunger for humans. Every year, young people were sent into the maze as sacrifices until the hero Theseus entered and killed the beast. The story of the Minotaur became one of the most famous myths about fear, isolation, and overcoming impossible challenges. Medusa. Medusa was once described as a beautiful woman before being transformed into a monster with snakes for hair. Anyone who looked directly into her eyes would instantly turn to stone. Unlike many creatures in mythology, Medusa's story carries tragedy as well as terror. In later versions of the myth, she was punished unfairly by the gods and forced into a lonely existence. She was eventually defeated by the hero Perseus, who avoided her gaze by using a reflective shield. Medusa later became a symbol of danger, power, and protection, and her image appeared on shields, temples, and armor throughout ancient Greece.
The Cyclops were giant beings known for having a single eye in the center of their forehead. In Greek mythology, there were different types of Cyclops. Some were skilled blacksmiths who forged weapons for the gods, while others were savage monsters living far from civilization. The most famous was Polyphemus, the giant encountered by Odysseus during his long journey home after the Trojan War. This legendary confrontation is set to be reimagined on a massive scale in Christopher Nolan's upcoming 2026 IMAX epic,
the Odyssey, which will feature Bill Irwin as the fearsome Cyclops. Cyclops represented raw strength and isolation, often standing apart from normal human society. By grounding the myth with his signature tactile realism.
Chimera. The chimera was one of the strangest creatures in Greek mythology because it combined several animals into a single body. It was usually described with the head of a lion, a goat growing from its back, and a serpent for a tail. Some versions also gave it the ability to breathe fire. The chimera spread destruction across the land until the hero Bellerophon defeated it while riding Pegasus. The creature became a symbol of chaos and unnatural creation, and even today, the word chimera is used for things made from different parts combined together. Atlas. Atlas was not exactly a monster, but he was one of the Titans, the powerful beings who existed before the Olympian gods. After losing a great war against Zeus, Atlas was punished by being forced to hold up the heavens for eternity. Over time, artists began showing him carrying the earth itself, which is why his name became connected to maps and globes. Atlas represented endurance and endless burden, and his image remains one of the most recognizable figures from Greek mythology. Typhon. Typhon was considered one of the most dangerous creatures in all of Greek mythology. He was described as a massive monster with wings, countless serpent heads, burning eyes, and a voice that could sound like animals or storms. According to legend, Typhon challenged Zeus himself for control of the universe. Their battle was so violent that it shook the world. Zeus eventually defeated him using thunderbolts and trapped him beneath a mountain. Ancient Greeks believed volcanic eruptions and earthquakes were signs of Typhon struggling beneath the earth. Pegasus. Pegasus was the legendary winged horse born from the blood of Medusa after her defeat. Unlike many creatures in mythology, Pegasus was seen as noble and pure. He became closely connected to heroes, especially Bellerophon, who rode him into battle against the Chimera. Pegasus was also associated with poetry, inspiration, and the heavens. In later traditions, the creature became a symbol of imagination and freedom. Even thousands of years later, the image of a flying horse continues to appear in books, films, and art around the world.